Ata Fielt.
Copyright 2020, Leo Thomas Zupan IV. Part 3. Heart Ocean.
Chapter 3. Green Dress. 1 dash 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 dash. Soft. Her blue-green eyes have just a tinge of yellow gold fire, and an even tinier flare of bright pure red. Her pink strawberry blonde hair did not mute her fire, a burning you know I can never explain. On wooden raised plank by fours, I made myself stay seated as she strolled beyond to a balcony I've called mine. She twists and veneers to bend forward and kirk her head and forehead down so our skulls faces strong locked. Can I pull up a chair? As long as it's one of the cyan ones, I say. No magenta even near. She scrapes it angle next to my chair. I light a smoke and she does too. Hers is white with a red circle on its filter's center. Mine is standard. Nearly all drugs kick in complete as I inhale. She blows smoke tunneled upper right out, looking at me again. 2 dash 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 dash. Beautiful ocean. Yeah, it is. My name is Taya. You are? Lee. She smiles and pauses. Of course it is. Pausing again. As beautiful as you are, I say. She ashes. 3 dash 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 dash. I inhale. I look at her slowly as I exhale. Time passes. Sigh. So I see you're still wealthy, she speaks. Well, yes. Yes, of course. Wealthier, I guess. Well, okay. Can you order me some of those substances then? I barely made it up here this time. Financially speaking, that is. Yeah, sure, of course. I call out from my black side thin coat pocket with my hand some of the copious multicolored capsules, create the right color combinations and hide the rest away in one of my many unsearchables and undetectables, so and plop a perfect menagerie of synergy into her palm. Don't worry, they came from dentists and doctors and former foosball authorities. Though I don't know what it is they ever author, but whatever. And a smile I send to her. She stares lost for a second or two at her perfect palm, and then snaps right the fuck out of it with a thwap of her elbow forearm to catapult those little guys past the little hangy thing in the back of the throat, as they call it. Her half blood orange, half tequila gives a gulp, and she sputters her blink with those eyes. A waitress swiftly clasps our empty glasses and puts them on an oval, dark wooden saucer of a tray with complex carven handles even darker. And with 2 replacement drinks lifted and placed on our respective little square tables next to our subtly cyan chairs, facing the overlook of the shores ahead, before we can more than start to notice what's going on. Such service, she puffs quietly with a speed whisper, like a little sonic wind darty kind of thing. Yeah, I know. Cheers. To ever. Clink. Mutual swallows swoon overhead and lull within us both. I assume you have a driver and a loft. Well, I like to call it a bungalow. All right then. Let's maybe stay a while, I love to with you. 4 dash 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 dash. She's way out at sea. Yes, Yes, you know she is. It shouldn't be too much longer, though. I smiled. Okay, it's kicking in, as they say. Yes, and mine are really kicking in now. Good. She grinned to the distance, including me somehow in her burning so bright, tiny aura. Her eyes fluttered as we entered a deeper realm of beauty, mystery, and pleasure's love. 5 dash 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 dash. I love this forest of a balcony, she says. Her tiny pale frame twists like a stolen keyboard on her semi-tall cyan chair. Wide curls of hair with color darkening a little towards their bottoms bounce, just a little 1 or 4 bounces. Her laced and black clothes with gray embroidery remind me of the Black Sea, where I found her so long ago in the darkest night I'd ever dared to dream. Crimson and gold as it was within. So do I say, as I look at the only patch of freckles on her face, which kind of cried out of her eyes down to the top of her cheeks. My hard and complicated nose twitched as her little one remained motionless. He's us now, only without one gender, she muses. Yes, indeed. And so there's nothing to stop us now. We are ready. Finally. We both laugh for once. The ocean crashes, muted explosion. She cradles her arms together. We are brought 2 diamond-shaped tiramisus, and we eat them before we can try to not laugh. Can I dance with you this time? Never, is my response, with a certain sarcasm, of course. Six dash 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 dash. We inch our chairs closer and stare together at the distances. Our love is an eternal lament, a burning ache. She looks down at herself and back at me with her eyes on my neck, and then slowly raises her glance to open to my look and connect. Worlds swim open regardless of a certain lack of hallucinogens, but not their metaphorizings. Ruby's sapphire looking glass opens in twindling portales as threads of etheric ivory color shoot and pull walls of worlds, open red as galaxy land, long since forgotten in its swirl. Smooth tunnel burst, it transforms as we let it transform. A piper beyond sound and only made of music of pure memory beyond memory's word calls, and everything expands, coming back to us. Questions disappear. We move our bodies to a comfortable position, look away from each other, breathe for a minute, and drift back to our eye contact in unison verbatim. You are my beginning, we say to each other. And the world disappears. We breathe as one heart. Dancing the spiral, it opens infinitely back up to us, though somehow temporal and temporary as she, the other she. It's still so far out at sea. Sea. We dance on momental and on fire, returning once more to it. This is not a dream. Our faces become ivy around our eyes, and her feckles our stars. Darkness descends about us like a sweeping dusk of perfection's soft creation. I am no longer the least bit glib. Her world is then an unwalled place of violet blue emotional dust. I become her and see my world as she does the same. Mind being one of glittery brown-black, our bridge red magic. As one being, and as separate, we breathe open with our eyes the strange sky of real dimension, and look at its ground with our feet, smelling its chalk powder as a touch of urge to walk as we do. The cliff is close. 7 dash 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 dash. A violin twinges. Stars comet shoulder level around our auras, and our hearts vine grass out purple with an oscillation of all perceptions. It gets darker than it was, perfectly blacker than home wood. No words come as we lean forward, looking at the chasm past the cliff. She pulled back and kicked a rock, so I could hear it clink and see its fall, desperate and profound with its passions. Coming to life from death's journey and terror's rhythm, chaos swell. I rolled up out of it as the stone penetrates a border of blight, black, stark, and flatter than anything to know, though I now did. And it was back to each other, levitated a few meters up and a few apart to poses beyond. We start to glow a certain dark red cosm with other features of various prism, a lexicon of intensifyingity, locuses of colors, and eerie sparkle thick, so thick in its nature and its kaleidoscope portionings. Spectral and growing, we spiral around each other's eyes slowly one last time and veer left and right, so slow and so growing, until we meet as eyes and being alone. The real portal opens. a forest made of crystalline blood and love so dark and perfect on its negative, and slow glowing as its celestial time-making roots, as its trees and glade as its positive. A pool on its right, pure bubbling black and a vacuous sky void of meaning, and certainly of any need of existence, and the spherish oval of its red forest, the center of all. A pink rose hides, stars in the trunks of those tree-ishnesses. There is no ground, though there is. There really isn't. Our rose causes clearings around it in the very center it is. We are its leaves lifted up to see its head or blossom, and its core is a turquoise, circle-ish, misty distance of ocean. I cut our stems and we bleed green and bleak unnoticed. Spots of clotted black trickle for those now around us as soon as gone. A choir of electricity vanishes and we stare at the beginning. This is the last one. We know somehow. This opening to this ocean. A breath drifts out of the thing and it feeds the forest outside us. I am the breath. I've always been, and so has she. Until that other came along, the one who is semi-lost way out in that drift of currents. A pink dot breathes future through. All three of us know the brightness that is destined in that pink, that is in that blue-green turquoise cyan. Everything outside us sends back a cheesy reassurance shifting that can only sound like the ruffle of shore pebbles. Sandy shuffling and repositioning utter care settles like the dusts of time. Bright foreign symbiotic transience. Movement to crystallize. Another breath and the pink matter draws us in. For the last time we go through portal and the walls we've all known disintegrate change. I am the shore of eternity. I am the timeless ocean. Both are our breath. Me and hers now, though it was not always, until she came. The only other equaled source, in any way that is anything. And the other her is its heart, something neither of us truly know. It dances and swims, and we stay ourselves watching cause unfold through the measures of breath. It all flashes and laps like a silvery gray, mirrory, quiet, splashy feeling, where everything fades and exists, like a swimming play. The pink calls us all even as the cyan perfecting its waves stays true. And my golden breath of sandy time pieces aeons. We see it pinker and softer, then neoner, bright forming, and kiss its becoming. She looks at us, and the it that is all of us soon to gather to what we see clearer than ever. And her look starts it, An oceanic flute sounds through all. 8 dash 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 dash. We let it go. So it came. The three of us, ocean, shore, creature, swimming, breathing, musicking, winding, proport into a geometry of pink, burning glow structure, fixed together like a soldered being, or some kind of somewhat complex but basic enough Star Trekky sea creature with an electrical pole-ish body and spines and legs and arms interchanging, hovered above the water, seeing ourselves from an upward angle, and Marietta reassures one last time from the gone balcony gone. Relief trembles in, all is done, and we breathe love. The only thing better than itself, the knowledge that better is forever every breath after itself. And we flute quietly. Time stops for us, finally. The heart ocean is heart ocean, heart ocean. We love sublime, and breath our love into everything. Finally. 9 dash 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 dash. We call the ocean a fairy realm then, open our eyes on a peaceful balcony. Do you want to go now? Taya asks. Yeah, sure. Mary is out front waiting for us with the car, talking on her cell phone with her lover, whom she is eternally exclusive with, and which we respect. We drive and wind down one road and turn to and intersecting other and pallid a wane to the hotel's causeway to drive into it. I give her a $525 tip, and we walk in and up to the room. She tells me she needs to go shopping soon, and I call Marietta to tell her to have several bank cards made out in Taya's name, dropped off to the concierge early in the morning, and to devote another trusty driver, Gregory, just for her. I give Taya Gregory's phone number. Through a simple quirk of fate, I had already quadrupled that lottery money from earlier. We lay down on the bed together on 5 times the drugs we had both started with, drinking wine and smoking high-grade weed, letting the ocean breeze breathe in from the partially open adjacent windows. What a world, she says. She says. For sure. Our eyes meet and lock, and we breathe back and forth each other's essence, and undress each other, simultaneously transcending our mental fantasies and desires before they can take hold. We are naked. We are fuck. Making love. Chapter 4. Second to last honeymoon. 1 dash 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 dash. She awoke, and shocked. She returned. We ate and drank. Strong and uncarbonated energy drinks. We lie on the bed and looked around, first at each other and then the room around us. Well, now what? Well, I've had enough drugs for quite some time, I'd say. Same here. That last chapter of our lives was so rushy and spacey. Says Lee to I, and I say, it would be nice to get dreamy out here for a while. Oceanic and coasty. You know, before. And I trail off as she smirks at me. Relaxing ourselves, Taya emits, yes. And then serenity and tranquility can begin to wash over us like a fat duck flying to an Overeaters Anonymous building in search of its dumpster only to find perfect portions of caraway seed-infused rye bread. Can you say rye bread? Is that like a copyright thing? 2 dash 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 dash. Stillmore. Stillmore is my last name. I added a waviness to the A sound in last, to be slightly mocking of it, as well as instructory to myself, whoever. Mine's Pertin. It's French. We were on a private stretch of beach I'd rented, being ridden around by Marietta on a golf cartish sort of thing, at a very slow and quiet speed. The tires and shocks made everything comfortable, so we could just drift as our experience. Dolphins arced in the sea far away. She wears a straw hat. We see fairies ingrained in the shore's patterns, and they come to life. One approaches us and smiles. She says, "We'll see you soon." Teehee. After it disappears, we look at each other's lips and lean to hold each other. It's afternoon and wispy and cloudy. I break from her and light a Gregory rolled cigarette from my 10. The only ones I really trust. It was a shame to not have had them earlier. Grandeur threatened temporarily to sweep us away, and we stayed. She lit one of her own and sipped on Valerian Earl Grey concoction. I had some really quite strong Colombian, Kenyan, Turkish mocha espresso with condensed milk along with a little almond milk, a little clover honey from Finland and Switzerland, respectively. We sat in silence there, and Mary telepathically knows to angle our cart out to the sea and stop 21 feet before its water's edges. Or maybe we'd do better to call it sand edgings. And we rested the cart. Marietta started to text and look to the leftish. We had the sea spread out before us and the buggy's convertible top lifted back to a recline, though not the seats. We sat still and touched each other's forearms and just breathed. In. Out. In. Out. Such blue-green beauty, like an undulating, perfectly muffled symphony of emotional orchestration strung from our heart and soul. Half muted, so perfectly half muted. In, out, time, passage, in, out, our lives' stories fade from us now, as they always do in these birthstone moments of divine saccharin. Gray clouds, wide and misty, cover 2/3 of the sky. Silver light shines through them, and the waves tunnel over themselves a few feet, each of them at a time. I breathe in the crashes. Her lips dance, and her mind is always a mystery to me, as she looks through those cat-eye glasses, with no prescription, but with a very fitting, vibrant, royal red speckled frame, stippled lightly of burgundy. Her sigh is 1,000 words. My inhale has only a few. I love you. Complex algae bubbles near us. A green doll version of Tea's eye color circuitry and webbing. The eyes of a hidden world exposed to me. Breath in the form of water comes out of the cavernous sea like capillary stringy pathways, flitting gorgeous, lush, and bright-colored snaky hair feelings. It reflects on her eyes so soft and blue-gray-green, those waters remain. Do you know your own beauty? What do I think of the beauty I know? Is that what you want to ask me? Well, since you asked, I speak. It is nothing. It will always be there. It's the reason we're here. I am not it, but I like to be, most of the time. I like to be my dance for myself and for you. A cherry tree, clock with no hands. A trail off and the ocean overtakes us once more. Something like that. I open the tin and stare at the smokes. It starts raining as Mary closes the top back onto a fixed position. Should we go, sir? No, let's stay a little while. Mary sips her travel-mugged Indian chai and puts an earbud headphone in her right ear. My drink is still steaming and not quite screaming. The rain is light. The lyrics to Lazaretto pop in my head, thankfully. I look back to her and kiss 3 clear little drops off of her neck. What do you think of hair, then? Taya says, devoid of feeling. I mean, why not? So many colors here, so many senses. It's not a dream. And so many calling feelings, Taya. That is one thing you were right about. On an unrelated note, we sigh together and breathe in the moistury, pseudo-humid shore air as she places a pad of a foot on sand land. Time slows and sputters to a near halt again. Hours go by in this way, and we eat our still hot, sealed away bacon mac doubles with extra cheese and half barbecue, half buffalo sauce. It was a happy meal. The rain comes and goes, and we smoke a joint. Hers have less bacon than mine, though, mind you. No families for either of us, huh? Got a problem with doors? Waste of time, that's all. A shark floats by and swims away greedily. I miss the Fae. But not for long. It really didn't matter which one of us said which one of those things. And, Mary, what do you think of the sky right now? I say. Well, sir, and she straightens her posture, I quite like the sky, often. She twitches her nose and adds, right now it makes me think of a gray rainbow, and I do quite like that. Her UK accent creeping out. Thank you, Mary. The drizzle stops and we ask Marietta to drive, and the listless miles of beach continue slow and vague. Pretty and beauty with a jagged land backdrop approached that was strangely inviting. We keep rolling. 3 ... Really a trundle, really. I light another smoke. I can't believe I slept with him. I can't believe I slept with her. Mutual grins and gladness for once. When you get to the end, turn around. Will you, Mary? Yes, Mr. Stillmore. Her earbuds still in. I can only imagine what she is listening to. Probably Imagine Dragons. I'd like to go to Persia one day, she says. What, so you can find some cats and kittens? Oh, stop. The sun sets and life becomes somehow even grayer, like a prayer. A grayer prayer. And we are its gray prey. Oh, stop. The waves did a black-blue-gray dance from their depths in front of us, parting in a cryptic fashion as the overall scape moved gently. We held each other and held back the tears. We are already flowing enough, we think to ourselves. Her navel quivers. The divot below my nose tingles. Waters lap, and our breathing is dreamy like deity's rose cheek. Like an outstretched neck with a turned away head, and like mists. We look at everything and through everything. Our minds silentia and salient. Please stop here, Marietta. We get out and walk near the wet sand to sit down right before it begins its sog. The depths speak to us. We just breathe and hold each other's embrace. They speak with no words or thoughts, of course. One day we drift away and we don't come back, huh? I trail off. Yes. Endless reverie, she says. Says it like the great goddess does. Sweeping and formless to ourselves, we sit synchronized and activating. We coast around still. A bird sways and drifts. The wind rifts little. She holds a pile of sand in her hand and watches it hourglass down to form a hill beneath. We look back up at the ocean together, our hearts pink, its expanses infinite, and stay and stay and... we are cleared. Only pure feeling and expanding perceiving seep on through. Our questions are all answered and there is nothing to do again. Curls drift and drip out there again. They peel up from below and lightning striking far forward from sky. A coolness wafts in as the temperature stays quite the same. Azure hazes, we are seagulls, sea gills. Beach plant grass hairs sift in a breeze so monatomic and spacey. Sparkles mist out of the salty basin surface. We stand and face it with a curvature and an aperture. The scenery stands behind her flowy flower of pink-red tipped hair. Her low skirt flaps mellow, undisturbed. Time, past, and future unfold before her presence and soon walk. I slowly crouch and look out to sea. I peer as a seer. The focal point vortexes and the whole space expands. I look at her cheek and see sand shores, so gradient and fine, galactic texture. We lose ourselves. We sway back and forth, unbeknowing in mists of still expansion. The bird caws. As a temple cube of our seeing's place becomes a sphere broken open, we pixelate and get stiller still. We swoon and swan in a portrait of boundless jar, fro and to. All our trying ache soothed, our hearts croon. Content and plateaued. I kiss her foot. The lightning strikes grow stronger and further from us. We just sit back down there and look at the sea. Hours go by. Marietta leaves and comes back and waits for us with an expensive bonnet on. The moon arrives. Marietta snores. We become the ocean. It flashes through our hearts and stirs our decisions. We really are ready this time, Taya whispers and smiles so happy. We are. As sure as you are dappled in swarthy moonbeam, love. So it won't be cumbersome. No, far from it. It will be a carousel, radiant and dark with the fullest lush color as ever. I know it, she says to me. Her curls unweave and reassert before my very eyes. Like the fairies, I know this is not really happening in 3D. But imagination dimension is a very, very real, unreal thing we know. And Taya starts again. Well then, your color, your lion colors of brown and some gold, are the most secure, forthright, funny confidence I've marveled at. So destructible and so steely. Yet it is your darkness I want, when all there is not heart. Your heart, your picture. Petals of every tinge and emote from her, orchid facing. And I see them. Yes, I see them. They carry every characteristic, every hue. I want your spirit's fluid. Oh, stubbles and cigarettes, she mumbles to me. I touch the back of my neck. Do you ever think sex is just tubules? She iterates. Nope. JKLMFAO. Lol. Haha, she smiles. The ocean blasts a huge, gentle wave crashing in our direction, and we spurt back into prescience. The ocean crashes into itself, again and again. It pulls us away with it. Along its dark, misty surface, we drift away, ready to never return, to become what we come from. A multiverse tracing a heart. Ocean. Encircling, outlining, and tracing until it collapses upon itself. Never to hear of or speak out more. Only to silently be itself with those other itselfs together in permanent concludedness. Mary? Mary? Yes, dear. Excuse me. Yes, sir. Time to go? Please, back to the bungalow for now. Taya pipes before my chance. Right away. One more night, she says. And, I say, one more day, we both say. Definitely. We need that before we can ever think about what's about to happen to this world. I say. In the best way, of course. Yes, of course. She still speaks. Perfect. 4 dash 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 dash. Did I mention there is a balcony? And it is an extended one. Do you want to watch vampire erotica? It's sleek, maybe even chiseled. You're funny, she says. Well, I don't know. Come on, join me out by the balcony. Okay then, I say. The moony circular high above us then, we stand and look over the ledge like kids. So hard to find anything here that lasts. From Taya. I know it. That's been a sad fact. A changing fact. Yep. You have all my love. And all my hope. We sit and she finishes her bloody steak only to drink a half-green, half-purple blendery smoothie drink. She takes off her one-way mirror non-sunglasses and flicks her blinking a few. We experience the night, warm and dark. I sip on a single malt whiskey and Pepsi supply, often a night drink ritual of mine. Stars twinkle brightly. No shooting comet stars tonight, I notice. None. Mary is a sweetheart. I was lucky to find her, yeah. Well, Lady of the Indigo Moon, I won't bother to compliment you. I have visions of things to come, and I quiet them. Seas of cities and lights and mothy crowds, each with their rare peacock butterfly stars hummingbirding about and around. Instead, I just hear, feel the Oceania before us wearing its invisible black, casting its light audibility. She approaches me and looks through my eyes, through my soul, and grips my hidden, trembling feeling with her stare. She goes into a slower motion than this time of this plane is, and leans down, oh so ever slow and sacred, to kiss my forehead with her royal red painted lips and lift up off of my skin prompt. flowing to the ocean, she whispers, and blows the secret of her wind through my skull, and I shudder. And I compose myself. A mandala, a cuneiform, a notion, calligraphic, iris. A sliver bead of night's lights roads collapse into an emptiness of her being her. I am alone in a universe with a silver glimmer beheld in my. She makes the void. I know now what I do to her, and found no separation from my experience of her and Tea's polar experience of myself, and poured myself into the letting go, so as to experience. Again, the nothing returned, even missing that green opal-eyed wolf, and glints in my bodiless, sphered hands, cupped yet open enough, even open between the fingers enough, and the glint, the disappearing of everything else, save my hands, me of course, and her hovering, half there, more there, than anything, to ness. The excitement of Pink's promise, vanished but not banished. The eloquent, internal, literary, emotional dressings tossed aside to a black and indigo flame in the dying void. Tea's highest self as an evolution beyond guidance and care and awe-inspiring, though ethereal and half-extant. She floated as a pose, with an arched arm and a divine quarter-twisted body, and carouseled reds, purples, blues. Her feeling said, look at what you already know. And so I did. Impossibility transpires and can certainly not be stated here. Afterwards, this pale loneliness returns to thread horizon like the thinnest cello wood tendril, a line of neither space-time, and cauldroned around it is her. She stares at me, a trance fire reddest generating, and says we have only glimpsed hard ocean. Now is the time to take the first step back home. 2.5 years from now is the last of all years. 5 dash 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 dash. We awaken. Memories flood of stormy fucking from thence night before. We finally had a mood to give in to the hard core anyways. Snacking on triple goddess turtle mints, ingrained with rosemary, raspberry, dark chocolate, and a couple of you get the ideas. Nothing to do again today, yes. She's flipping around the special ordered pyramid channels on the computer TVs. So archaic. This television thing's still around. Puh. And she spits invisible spit into the invisible air. Would you like me to burn it? Get some huge fucking tongs and throw it out into the concrete still afire? Do it, she says. You don't believe I can, do you? I says. Well, anyways. She mutes them before we can hear that the pyramids were built by space and earth magic, and slowly stands. Her elegant shimmery robe is a gossamer of royal green. She flips her multicolored hair back and looks behind herself at the carpet, somehow looking at me, though. She piffs each soft foot into a new step of fresh carpet and slowly gets to the glass doors to our elevated balcony. Time moves with her stark beauty so slow. She graduates the doors open, puts on her hard shoes, clocks out onto the outer mahogany lacquered wood floor. I follow her out, wearing black patty soft fabrics myself, even slippers. There, that's better, she says, and sits with her legs crossed feminine wise, utilizing a cigarette holder this time, along with Hepburn cat-eye pink-lensed glasses. Yes, it is, I can tell. Should I order some veal bacon carbonara lasagna? Extra cheddar. No, let's wait, she casually orders me. I lean on the railings, soft, dark wood, smooth finished and rounded, looking off to the shores. I take a hit of strong opium from a curly-Q complicated Sherlockian glass and stone pipe. Ivory, pastels, and darker colors on the magnificent thing. I exhale to the wondrous ocean of marvel, remembering its marble and granite qualities of the night before, so recent to me. I breathe it into the spine of my spirit and soul. Funny things happen to me with formica pupils always flashing. My house is creaking. She fidgets. She is serene. We watch the flight of the condors. Let's go out to the pier, she says. Oh, well, sure. I call Marietta and she arrives 14 minutes later, right as we are ready. In the car. How was your day, sir? It's fine, Mary. And tomorrow we're springing into action. Lee did say then. Any of the little people around? She smiles. Yes, Mary, always. Just hiding, you know. Hiding in the secrets of ourselves. Yes, Mr. Stillmore. I like you, Marietta, Taya says to her. Thank you, madam. You're very kind, thank you. Of course. So we're off to the Estelle Pier today, Mary, and we won't require your return until the sun is just gone. Very well, Mr. Stillmore. Beautiful day today, sir. Thank you, Mary. The clouds are white and gray today. We coast along in curved roads, looking at the flower blossoms through clear windows, and near the end of our journey, we turn the tent on and the interior barrier windows are raised with tin as well. Next time I want the limo, Taya says. I press the intercom unit and tell Mary to come with limo on return. Yes, sir, a white one with gold trim. Perfect. We stay in our tent box, looking out sullen and satisfied, dull color all around us. Is that all, my honey bunches? No. Do you remember the theater, Lee? The Victorian harpsichord and piano? I remember it all, I say, though foggy as it is, real as it is. So dapper you were. So desperate you were, with your young white pink beauty. She smiled. 6 dash 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 dash. At the end of the pier was a diamond-shaped stone 20 feet wide. We sat square on it and ate our mac chickens with very mild buffalo sauce and extra Monterey Jack cheese on both sides of the chicken. I had bacon and sautéed shiitake portobello mushrooms with fried shallots ingrained under my top slice of cheese, with a bonus grouping of sharp shredded cheddar cheese mini cubes. She, the same, minus half the bacon. And for some reason Taya wanted her bacon crumbled before her, this time, that is. Who am I to question it? It took getting halfways through those creatures of a sandwich before we broke down and started dipping them in the brightly flavored Italian dressing with many locally grown herbs in it, at our side in souffle plastiques. I threw the wadded up paper bag back into the sea and called Aries on the phone to tell him to donate $4 million to an anti-litter organization I had researched for hours weeks before and watched the paper float away. Sadly, a shark did not eat it, though I am actually fond of sharks. Taya took out a huge bottle of $28,000 red wine on our private pier in two beautifully shaped semi-narrow glasses. Are you sure you don't want to go out on the boat? Yes, she says, I'm sure, love. I light a smoke and drink the whole glass. She lights a smoke and pours me another. I thank her excessively. Then I guess the pier is our boat today. I let the coast fade and become immersed in the blue, with its white bubbly crests, its watery mountains of miniature tumult and feet-deep maelstroms. Life fades away once more, all thoughts of tomorrow blank. I sip my wine. She sips hers. The lavish structures remark. We sit on our Arabian cushions. Huge white clouds cover the sun. What a cozy day, she says. I remember my times as the merfolk nobleman, swimming with angels of Fuchsian beauty. She sighs. The air seeps through us full. Being all this way out, we are more with our love, as well as ocean. She is a chameleon queen. I'm gone with her with those dreamy waters. The breeze lilts like a stroking and a compel. Time to give in, I say. Everything is sea blue. The clouds dip into the pool of it in our vision. We dive in while still seated in body and on stony diamond. Everything is fluid blue. Copious flowery water plants and corals abide. We spiral so very, very slow. The feeling of the great ocean overtakes us with its mystery salute. Long forgotten as always, and is always now here. The circle open. A circle within a circle. We hold hands, hovering. Magic awakens. Our swim is a dance barely of motion. She lies on coral, and I watch her hair ripple and merge with its environ's elementality. Days go by in this way in an ocean, the way she swims and all that matters to me, you see. The feeling of it calls me away. So far away from here. So completely here. Golden monarch fish swim to me and press against my body in a round abdomen and circles. I still have my button-up, soft white shirt on. It is like hair now. I am the ocean, as I said before. I am its tiny creature within it, dwarfed. We are a relationship as well. A ship that rocks with weather nature, usually gentle, always eloquent, even as a fool. I am a sand. Glass. Tranquility's waters tease me through, quiet me and enliven. She basks and I shudder, both of wit and merry. The dream ever. We go round and round, still, and our swim is in a blue sky as swell. Cloud riding in waves, the blue has no words, just gentle receiving from one step to another league, seeing our futures inlaid out before us as miraculous as present. Coming back redundant, to change itself and see itself again. There is no hope for anything else. We're lost in careening and silent unmove. Love, flow. She bursts out of the water and lunges and heaves and gasps. I spew cyclone air. We find ourselves back on the stones as the sun starts to set with a cloud. I love you. Well then, let's do this, Taya speaks. I give Marietta a call. Hey, can you pick us up early? Yes, Mr. Stillmore. Post face. Taken from a later book, 11-page stories. Eyes wander. Dash, dash, dash. The moon was a blood orange that night as he walked to the downtown area. True, he could have taken a taxi cab, but the walk was preferable for now. 3.5 miles later, he was in one of the darker areas of downtown. He walked along one of the streets with many little bars on it, the seedier ones, as people called them. He went into one called Half Pint. After sitting at the very end of the bar, he ordered a Bloody Mary and drank it very, very slowly. It was burning his stomach, as it always did. A couple of females arrived. Both had black hair and looked as though they knew each other well enough to look like each other, to mimic each other's fashions, style, and mannerisms. He sat hollow, empty, and apart from that, thirsty. Andy was one of their names, he noticed. Sarah the other. He eventually picked up. Their purses were a matching cherry red. He found himself noticing how obnoxious that was and couldn't prevent his mind from hating that. They laughed at some joke they were telling each other. It didn't take long for them to notice his aura. Something wrong with it, it seemed. More than a few shades darker than the darkness humans sometimes dress their aura in. Strangely magnetic, though. They stared at him openly and he rose. Crimson walked to a booth in the corner slowly, praying for them in his own strange way. Andy said to Sarah, "Who's he?" "Let me just get my manual out," she retorted. "Very funny. What are we gonna do tonight? I really need a pick-me-up, if you know what I mean." Andy spoke quickly, not really thinking much, just talking somewhat mindlessly as she was quite accustomed and prone to doing. In the back of her mind, some weird form of an itch was developing, or was it also a craving? Sort of. Crimson listened to every word that they said, focusing his attention to their words from 50 feet away. Even their whispers were crystal clear when he honed his focus in like two sharp, jagged, and beautiful fangs. Sarah went to the powder room. Andy slowly wheeled around before she knew she was doing it and peered over to Crimson's booth. He was ready for her. She stared and lost herself. The ceiling became black, and the blackness grew. She closed her eyes and clasped her forehead. No time to give in to anxiety. She opened them again and stood up. There was still time before Sarah returned. Sarah would never approve, of course. Andy grabbed her drink and walked towards Crimson, pretending that maybe she wasn't. Maybe she was just going to play a jukebox song. Although she always used her phone for that, but whatever. Appearances sometimes were all that really mattered, you know. Do you know what time it is? Crimson asked her when she was about to walk past his booth towards the juke box. It was one of his favorite questions, if he had such a thing as favorite questions. 9:20. Still early, she said, having no idea where the urge to tack that on came from. Do you know this area of town very well? Crimson asked, appearing to lose interest, even though he was choosing to ask her another question. Because I've run out of exciting ideas for the rest of the night, you know. Sure, do you mind if I join you? You are invited. ... Sarah came back to see Andy at Crimson's booth and instantly dropped her drink. So much for appearing like someone who has more sway over the situation than some bizarre and dark stranger. Dark. And almost cold. Cold amidst what would normally be a sweaty desert night. Well, that was it. She had no choice. She went to the bar, apologized, and waited for another whiskey sour. Yes, she would join them after it arrived. God damn it. It didn't take long to get her drink. A Buddy Holly song started playing softly. Hi, Andy. How you doing? Sarah asked. I'm Sarah, she said to the strange man before Andy could respond. Crimson. Nice to meet you. Your friend was just helping me out. You see, I was at a loss for the rest of this young night. And now I think I have a few good ideas. Thank you, Andy. And he smiled slowly at both of them. A very kind smile, which very poorly covered his post-tragedy of an existence, of a subsistence. Sarah sat down quickly. Well, what did you decide then? She asked them both without much direction in her curiosity. Fritter Jays, that's my top pick, but isn't it always? What's wrong with you? Sarah asked Crimson, in a near-violent blurt that neither her nor Andy understood. It's too early, darling. That's all. Don't worry about it. Too early? Yes. It's a different place at 1 a.m. Still another at 3. After that it's too late, but that is obvious, I am sure. Different. Yeah. Different kind of a place at 1 a.m. Yes, Sarah. It changes, so to speak. The moon sets into its place. The animals stop behaving as much like the humans that have mastered most of their world. Even the moisture in the atmosphere changes. Doesn't quite deaden, but, well, I guess you could say it follows what the moon follows. Don't get me wrong, though. I wouldn't really be a sliver better as the night darkens. Not a shard more at home. Not anything better. Still I am grateful. Andy? It is Andy, right? I'm so dreadfully sorry. I'm abhorrent with names. Absolutely wretched. Nothing. They sat in silence. But what about the two of you? What will you do to brighten the rest of your night? Something both delightful and exciting, I hope. We should go to the park. Finally, Andy spoke. Would you go with us? I'm sorry, what is your name, mister? Crimson. ... This is also a cemetery. You are aware. Crimson whispered, with a near reverence. The kind of reverence only a junkie knows of. We are now, Sarah giggled, all of her fear and consequent contempt for the wandering stranger now gone. They walked around a corner, continued a little further along the way, went around a second corner, continued along the path. came to a bench facing 3 tombstones. Inevitably, the tombs of a family 6 feet below, all dead in the 1800s. Crimson sat first, to one side of his 2 20-something girls. He peered up at the moon. His eyes were flashing and burning with a near-neon radiance. The stars may as well have not existed, for all the stringent clouds, opaque, obscuring, a deathly sick gray, they straddled the broken sky. He rested his hand on the back of Andy's neck. How he wished he could not be so hypnotic to such young creatures. Not any younger than their grandparents in their 70s, really. Not to him. So young. So wrong for trying to achieve something of value in their short lives. So betrayed. That was the only thing he ever had in common with anyone these days. The mutual betrayal. His ancient grandeur ruined. Precisely in the same way a small child's hope for a better toy is ultimately ruined. A hope for a toy that might even matter one day. A hope for something that might amount to something that matters. A gift of having at least that in common. Well, an anti-gift, actually, but the one unifying commonality nonetheless. He pierced Andy's neck with the points of his canine vampire teeth. 2 tiny little points opened at their tips, and he pulled her life's blood in as a mirror to that of a cobra emoting its venom, its black poison into its victim's soft flesh, with unforgiving rigidity and expertise. All the while, he stared at Sarah, both entranced by her and entrancing her. How like a great red ant she had seemed, when she still had her breath, that is. Andy fell from his jaw, and Sarah broke his trance. She gulped out some kind of a sick, quiet, gaspy sound, and rubbed her hand, and then rubbed just her fingers over Andy's wounds. Andy, who lay hunched on her side on the stone bench now. Sarah believed time was accelerating, but she just couldn't be quite sure. She looked up at the moon, half covered in a curtain of clouds, and extended her neck to the vampire. What a dreary dream. A nightmare she would never believe she had the power to wake from. As his ancient stone-like ivory fangs penetrated her modern graceless neck, her mind filled with images of blood-running aqueducts and black granite waterfalls, oozing a near black blood. Yes, with an almost indigo twinge on the deep wine color. She looked up one last time and placed an arm on Andy's white dress, caressing her shoulder and crying, while wrapping the other arm around the vampire for one last embrace. Her entire body pumped for him, a pulsing of her entire being, born to give her deepest red away, to give every last bead and beat of it away. She collapsed to the ground, and he swallowed. Using Andy's sleeve, he wiped his mouth, stood, pushed her off to the ground to rest with her friend on their newfound family's tombs, and slowly walked away. Dash, dash, dash. A chain-linked metal gate and fence surrounds the decaying warehouse Crimson stands in front of. He is inhumanly tall. Though he usually employs various methods to mask his height, he can already hear the screams with his vampiric things that used to resemble eardrums. He scales, hops, and leaves behind the gate, stealthily proceeding towards the nearly inaudible sounds. I see them through the many large holes in the wall, and I walk closer to them. Sarah, the darker of the two, I had pulled into my veins, flashed over the face of who I was observing, albeit only for a slice of a second, and then she was gone as quick as she had come. The two who stood before me, in their little warehouse, must have once been very good friends themselves as well, but it definitely looked as though it had been a while, maybe even best friends the more I pondered it. A version of a psychic bolt or rod hits me. It is a rather gentle experience, carrying with it a great many horrors. The smaller of the two females in front of me, Judy it seemed was her human name, had betrayed the other by fucking her former husband, followed by the husband's brother. This had caused many problems for many people. Judy, it seemed, just couldn't help herself when it came to those sorts of things. Sad, really. Very sad. Natalie was heartbroken, until she had managed to sleuth out the complete story when it came to Judy. Both of these women had been raised in an unseemly world of gangsters, gangster wannabes, and very real violence. Natalie's life had been much rougher than Judy's, as the scene I see now very clearly shows me. The sultry, sifty smell of thick blood was dotted all around my sensings. I inhaled deep. Natalie had Judy tied and exposed, and was carving slowly into her with an old rusty saw. She was moving very slow and savoring every moment of it. A fire locked Judy's eyes to Natalie's. The sensual dance of torture's pain held them together. Gradually, Natalie moved the saw blade up and then back down into Judy's torso. Every time Judy got close to losing too much blood to stay awake, Natalie cauterized her wound with a cheap convenience store lighter torch, which she seemed to have several of, just in case. Judy caught my eye and screamed, "Help!" Natalie wheeled around, looking more frightened than Judy, and I stared into her eyes. "Don't stop just because of me. You do want to avenge your pain and the pain of all your pathetic relatives, don't you? All the wanton sorrow of this rule-bound, horrific universe, where being right is always wrong in the right context. These worlds, where being wrong is always wrong even when it is right. Please, don't stop. Maybe the wizard will quit hiding then. I doubt the architect of every awful twisting in every being's guts fate will ever step out of its position and end all the madness. It's worse than trite to think I will be able to have an opinion of whether or not it's trivial or redeemed. The trick has already been played. There is no solace, other than proven heaven given freely to all, impenetrable and uncorruptible by any contingency, punishment, sequence of events, thought, perfection beyond anyone or anything. It is time to saw back down, don't you think? And I smell Judy's crisped, charred blood near her former genitalia, almost remembering the being I was born as, those millennia ago. The being that would have cared for the human experience of shock, the human urge to correct that which humans feel as horror, or as horrible. And the half-there memory vanishes. I approach them and toss the saw to the ground with a metallic, warbly clink. Natalie is in the absolute throes of terror now. Judy looks at me with something like shame and embarrassment. It is a look that comes from the torture, and it is nothing new to me. I have seen that look as often as a parent sees a guilty child stealing a piece of birthday cake late in the night from the ever-illuminated fridges of suburbia. I clutch their faces with a strength and exactitude that surprises them both, and pull their cheeks to each other. I squeeze their necks so that they are touching each other, throbbing jugulars squeezing into one another rhythmically. As I poke one tooth into each of their necks, they begin to realize the intimacy they must now face with each other. And it is the greatest pain I ever could have imagined for either of them. It's just that none of us knew this until it was happening. until it was thrust upon us all, driven by some vampire monster's circumnavigation of reality's slow unfolding sequences, some awful being's capacity to jump past the limits of control. This fresh evil became the result of my lust for my activation of my plots at any given moment. At that given moment, I stared at them both, and trance forced them to stare at each other. The intimacy tore their souls apart from the inside like a raping cyclone that came from the deepest depths of their hearts, as well as from nowhere at all. Just as I had no time to plan, but still though, just as I knew I had planned. Somehow, whatever it is that makes the fucked up me, the vampirist part of me, had definitely planned it. The gray whites of their eyes had tiny little red veins in them, like all humans' eyes do, and they started to burst from the turmoil and internal torture within them both. Solid red were their entire eyeballs now. Had I been human, I'm sure I would have become erect between my legs. Legs I have used for thousands of years to wander, to crouch, to lie, even to sit Indian style as the racists have caused us to call that particular posture. How amazing, I thought in one of my rare, passing, seemingly frivolous thoughts. Despite everything I've become, I still find racism ridiculous. I pressed their heads together as I fed upon them, so their eye sockets were pushed against each other, and felt them shriek as their eyeballs exploded and their blood mingled, a shriek of a rare high level I have almost never encountered, coupled with the forced yet inspired giving of the last of themselves to me. This all melted together and into me as I used my powers to burn them both, to burn them in the center of their brains and catalyze the last of their lame human excuse for evil selves out of their shells and into my infected heart, which served only waiting for impending and hopefully unstoppable death. Not that I could ever truly bring myself to care about anything, including, of course, anything I say to you now. The vampire, Crimson, walked to the corner he knew the taxi cab was driving up to. He was charged on every level, yet he is tired. So very tired. He endures the car ride home, walks into the diseased cottage and steps down to the basement. No dreams tonight, as usual. He envisions a rainbow of blood, a spectrum of the many hues of blood. Not the shape of a rainbow, just the spectrum, mind you. The specter. Sleep comes quicker to him than expected. He remembers when he first was forced to forget what a blessing was. A blessing like wanted sleep coming quick, as opposed to the thing he now dealt with, which was never actual sleep. He loathed his mind's generations of complaints, and that thought as well. Crimson plunges into the abyss as his eternal rest and peace draws nearer, devoid of any justification or condemnation, free of reason. He is a vampire with no real goals, not really, deep down, or actions, and in his true cursedness, and in his true blessedness, he has wrought nothingness upon himself and the world. Yet, that which is his love, and that which he truly loves, inevitably is destined, and every better thing, ever approved of, by whatever, and articulated better too, is, as well. Crimson sleeps, and does not dream. contented, dash, dash, dash. Hannah and Diane lived in Paris. At a fine dining cafe they sat, facing each other at a table with sand-colored linen and a large circular window next to them. They had one of the best spots in the house, as they say. "It is magic hour," Hannah finally spoke, in beautiful, perfect French. She had held back a thought about a joke then, a joke about going to Belgium to get some French fries. Belgium fries, worth holding back. It was a reference point to what cinema filmmakers referred to dusk as. Hannah was not sure if magic hour included sunrise as well, but it should, as far as she was concerned. Diane took her meaning and lazily quaffed back, as if exhaling out back a drawl from a cigarette. "The more magic, the better. I need more magic. Always need more magic. Dash, dash, dash." The piano tolled on. Blood poured through the moon, deep. Even the wine doesn't stain around here. By all means, do not come. She knew. By she, I mean both of them. You see, because she could see, she could tell. From just the first keystrokes of a broken pendulum, broken open into something greater than one multiplied into two. From the first reddest of the letterings, from the moment's first true depth. And that meant a lot, that she could tell. On every object, which contained every side or dimension of said objects, she knew. From the start. Anyways. The rooster does caw, obviously. And so now they were blessedly together. It had taken forever and worse. Painful to fathom, actually. And here they thankfully were now, risen above the clouds of shit that had forever burdened and disgraced and humiliated their souls. Together at last. Nothing to do now but progenerate and flourish and repeat. And so the three of them did. Dash, dash, dash. Back to the same hourglass table the women had started at, this time with an addition. An addition within, we could say, as if there was any way to describe the new difference in a being once it had become one of the immortals. And London, an addition without. They sat around their oval table, contemplatory. Fried duck and fish, with orange crimson blood burnt around the edges, there for display, for the guests abound. The novels merely extant, or tasked, or whichever, to comment on the tiredness the undeveloped masses bring to those with a trueness, needed not to exist at this new table, most gratefully. Those problems will always remain, but they have no palpable power around here, as they all knew. And they sat, and they surveyed. It had been an aeon since they spoke. Such a provoking, insufferable word Klingon is, it seems. But one thing no one can insult is that their invention of blood wine is divine. The title alone, of course, my dear dears. And London trailed off, or rather trailed in, to his two primary mates. Trailed rather in. Yes, honey. Hannah crooked her mouth into a twisted resemblance of a frowning grin that was positively addicting. Yet, who shall provide it to us tonight? Diane continued, Hannah, without a pause. A red-haired, pale-skinned witch with a choker? A magenta ghost of our oceanic tormented longing? One of the Fae, and one of the Mare. 3 so deadly smooth. Hannah continued and concluded by looking at those seated about the small, dark, ornate table. Their place, as well as their surroundings, had become darkened by their presence, much darker than it was only a few several days ago. Yes, Lyndon finally spoke. All of that, please. And he smiled, truly innocently, for once. Dash, dash, dash. And so they were hunting, stalking to begin with. Yes, and it was indeed a pale red-haired one with such beauty. Beauty that made you not stall quite, but a descriptor superior. Stall times 1100. And she was rather afraid, as humans tend to be of the immortals, when their dark death truly starts to shine into shallow human awareness. Terrified would be a closer word. Alive even closer, my loves. Her terror was, of course, not causing her to run from the stalking trio of vampire lovers behind her. In fact, it was causing her to walk just fast enough to hyper-elevate her heart rate, to get her heart to pump and thrust its blood throughout her pale, frail, small, sad, tenuous frame, with all of its wanton tragedy and desperate ache, its indescribably beautiful nature, somehow living in an environment far more than disrespectful to that. That same terror then also caused her to slow and turn and face her predators. She had been prepared to spit vitriol in many word forms and subsets of courage, but when she connected with the vampire's eyes, all of that started to change. Blood, I love your hair. Darling red, Diane taunted to her. Where do? The witch-human redhead tried to say back. Oh yes, we will always come from something you can't understand, like ourselves, and him. Diane killed her attempt with that sentence, and Lyndon lunged. Such magic, he said, and breathed into her as he pulled her head back by her bright, fiery red hair. Such magic, my love. And he plunged his fangs into her young, pure, white, narrow neck, and began to pull all of her blood out of her eloquent body. Hannah and Diane watched in beyond sophomoric anticipation and extreme kinetic arousal, dripping, dash, dash, dash. The red-haired girl was dead. Some number of years less than 20 she had been. Now her corpse lay under the alley, forgotten by all, rotting and putrefying, for all the centipedes, maggots, worms, and roaches to feed on and upon. The vampire lover trio was back at their closest thing to what you could call a home. They were lying together, drifting off and resting, and coming back to, all together, and really rather contented, in fact. Your poor mothers, Lyndon half-whisper muttered. What would they think of it all now? And he smiled with utter genuinity. They would lament the need for children or parents in the beautifully dark, languid world of our immortal love, as they deep down already have and do. Hannah poeted. Such soft amber, salandry, celic. Diane finished. But what of your sisters? Lyndon prodded. Exactly. Both chorused in utter return. Dash, dash, dash. Lyndon sat alone on the outdoor stoop by their backyarding, on the house they definitely owned. He was deep in thought. What discoveries awaited him? How would he adapt, and how long would it take to encompass his new reality? No question mark. Only statement. The new reality he had broken into. The one where an immortal meant to only know pain by its very nature had devised a situation where it actually felt good, probably soon enough, he surmised. And the discovery as well. He imagined there would be many, all the same, yet all different. Perhaps, he mused, it's the next evolution of the next evolution. A synergy to take it all even further. And why not? Why not? Dash, dash, dash. Bon bao. Bon bao di, etc. A scooter, or motorbike, shouted from the recesses. Diane and Hannah were on their way to a rooftop sky bar in their new Southeast Asia abode. They walked into the La Maison Hotel and proceeded up to the 21st floor. A beautiful expanse was before the two of them. We make a pretty good team, Hannah. Diane smiled. They were feeling especially horny, though not sexual at all, that night. Yes, Diane, with your guidance. Diane paused and smiled, satisfied. Well, you're a good student. At what you need to fucking learn, that is. What you must still learn. For a long time to come. A very, very long time still, I'm afraid. Yes. Yes, I am a good student. Hannah demurely spoke, trying to please Diane as much as possible. Diane shuddered and then stroked Hannah. Oh, how I love you, woman. They dove into each other's post-souls via a spiral stare. So who do we find next for him and us? They both thought. Simultaneity. Nothing else to do but be content. Dash, dash, dash. Like sucking the marrow out of a strawberry, you are. Lendon thought into the young nun the three of them were devouring. Messy quotes, he also said. Messy, the level of horror visited bestowed by her. A charred-out lament. Beautiful. Their relationship was contented. They went from place to place, fucking to death those they dreamed of to do so, never turning them, always savoring, and just when that seemed to be a staleness, well, they just continued to further on. Dash, dash, dash. And now it was 2029. Futuristic only to the past. National politics had finally begun to become trumped by global awareness, and moreover and more importantly, global standards. Women had walked on Mars. Iran had quit torturing humans as much. Hoverboards were more common. Somehow Spielberg was still kicking and still making epic features. Lendon and his tribe were as fresh as ever. They strolled together in 3 a.m. Norway, suburbia, an environment as cold as Satan's clit, and still beautifully colder. Their subtle expressions remarked to each other the appreciation of each other's visible, freezing exhale puffs style. They moved with such deep emotional satisfaction mortals can't understand, but maybe can have hints of understanding from those times in their life they have felt truly at home emotionally and deeper. Those times that really are rare and only happen a few times in your life. And well, that is what they now had come to the point of being able to walk around with. Actually walk around with on a regular basis. And this is what they did now. Just waiting for a dark breeze of the late a.m. cold that no one walked around in to carry them to their next curve or turn. And so it did. A dark, frozen playground went by on their right. A frozen dead rat was near the jungle gym. Red turned to crystallized dark ruby, outlined by black. Turned to sunny ant food only during the approved 3 or 6 sunny hours of the ants. They walked and walked and walked on. You know, when you have a love like they do, you can even relish the pain of not achieving and the hurt of hungering, especially the sorrow of loss. The blade of disappointment kissing your eyes and dreadlocking your hair, tensing your brow, and your tired, worried heart, hoping for the best in a world of killers with no regard for that hope, but still hoping like a child, alas. They walked together, so together, unbelievably, only doing what they really should, dash, dash, dash. They came upon a very short 18-year-old female human, maybe 4'4". Lyndon surmounted the distance. Hannah grabbed her and she began to cry clear tears. "Why are you here?" she jutted, in surprisingly cutting questioning. "Because you are done with this shell of life, Coil," Diane replied, and they spread her apart. Hannah and Diane looked at her in their mutual forced, coerced embrace, and both started crying blood for her, and for her ultimate well-being. Lyndon cut into her neck with his triangular-ish canine bicuspids, while the girls fed from the small one's vagina quite literally, by biting and then sucking excessive blood from its pink. The four of them throbbed in unison for 5 to 7 minutes, all staring at her eyes the whole time, literally feeding off of her fear until her body died in the unforgiving cold of Norwegian winter's wood, until the spirit of the scene finally collapsed and they respectfully cast her vessel aside, gulping the last of the essence. They sat, eventually slowly gathered themselves and stood staring at each other, and then finally stared up at the Norwegian moon. After some time they began to migrate home. This had been a particularly satisfying twilight evening. Dash, dash, dash. And now a millennia had gone by, and they were still here, the three of them and their countless other lovers, though they were only countless because of the passage of another 1,000 years. Throughout this time, their love had only deepened, their skill together, ultimately their appreciation. They had done everything that any lovers could do together, and somehow the flower, no, the lotus of their love, had only strengthened, much more than endured, through the passing of time. Yes, they were more experienced, but that had only made their immortal selves younger in spirit, older in action, of course. Dash, dash, dash. They were sitting in their back sky yard, as they were now calling them, the fucking mortals. Around their fountain, they all looked at each other at the same time. A beautiful sense of romantic violence grew within them all. They locked their fangs into each other's necks at the same time, and all sucked and circulated their soul blood, forever together. Much more than contented, than the words ever describe. Post-word. Concept, dash, dash, dash. I guess it was just her time to go, Mr. Stillmore said relaxedly. Sometimes he really missed Taya, even still. Yes, Claudia said, thinking and pausing. Me too, my love, me too. But look at it this way. We've got twins on the way, so it's not all lost, or lost, comforting a smile to his direction. It had been roughly 2.33 years since the band had played their last ineffable show, causing Taya to die abruptly, and the scars were still fresh for those that had outlived her. Those two that had been madly in love with her, now only capable of tracing the flakes of her remembered soul, which was finally dead, and which would not return. It's true, twins were on the way, pressing Claudia's belly out with fervor and ardor. Mr. Stillmore was sterile, so they had optioned for a donor. It made sense to them, not that they had any plans whatsoever of having children beyond these two twin girls. So anyway, the music had stopped, ended. Being a rock star is something you can only do under the age of 40, by the way. for those of you who don't know. Not that precluding technology isn't obviously on its way. And they were now at the beach house, outside. A little station set up in the midst, with their ornate reclining beach lounge chairs set as cornerstones. Claudia was looking effervescent as ever. The ocean looks beautiful today, my love. Just so beautiful. Claudia spoke. It really does. You know, I want to spend decades out here with you. The better majority of a century, my love. Tears welled up in his eyes. It had been so long already. So very soon. Everything will be just perfect. They said. And the twins kicked to agree. Fielt. Dash, dash, dash. Not having enough time can make you feel all charged up from the rush of it. Anything to feel exhilaration, some of they have said sometimes. Still, time's passage is not always for the sake of poetry, or for the return to those left off in wanting. But not to be too positive, to the point of breaking or snapping and breaking off. There is a fundamental phenomena of a thing that functions as a way, like you lose something, it feeds into something gained, and then after all of that, you somehow manage to take it way even further, especially when no one was the least to expect. Ting. Just all the clamoring at the end of the night and at the end of the day, subsiding, resigning, fucking finally. These are two people, or is it four, that just enjoy being by the ocean, together. And additionally, but not separate, enjoy the finer things in life. Two people that know when to quit and don't care not to, but still go on, eager to experience more. Seasoned and tired, they find themselves lucky to have found each other, to have found another, one that thinks the same way and can battle with them against the swarming everyday hordes of non-perfection noise and handle it, all the time with the iron, kept seed that knows and reminds because it remembers that there is always an eventual settling of the dust, and we will return to ourselves, oceanic, time and time again, for as long as it takes, never truly forgetting. And yet, as the Russians say, 9, as the Germains say, 11, emergency, and the twins. Well, those two are on their way, aren't they? But only as part of a family, huh? Well, why not enjoy having a cause to celebrate? Now, I'm not one to just generate a strict rule for some bullshit reason, but I do listen to those that came before me and their selective wisdoms of restraint. Ultimately, for personal reasons, however, I have realized that a true and literal sequel to Ata Fielt is at least 8 years off into the distance, if it should ever manifest, which I doubt. And if it does, it will be for the sake of the children first, as well as the adults and myself, etc. Maybe then certain things I want to say now will be possible, to utterate. Either way, everything crucial has already been accomplished. About the author. Love. Lee is a name. Lee was inspired to write this from probably a muse. Lee aspires even when all else fails. That is why we are here. For now. Lee's priority organization is that of first love, second music, third writing, fourth sketching art, fifth everything else. Definitely in that order. Lee's music history is as follows. 1. Hearing the piano. 2. Watching Pink Floyd The Wall. 3. Hearing Tori Amos, Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson, Jimi Hendrix, Rage Against the Machine, among countless others. 4. Drumming to Blind Melon's No Rain on a practice pad and on a bed. 5. Playing drums, bass, guitars, and keyboards. 6. Founder of the band Crystal Quality, which had a 90-minute demo tape with no vocals, disregarded by all and lost. 7. Written songs, lyrics, disregarded by very near all, 1/3 lost. 8. Solo project Proud Contradiction, or PC, which had 7 albums, all electronic, with no vocals, disregarded by near all and lost, from Lee's possession at the very least. 9. Founder of the band The Spirals, which had an EP worth of original material and an LP worth of covers, many crappy versions of which are online, in their compromised forms, disregarded by very near all and still online somehow, several shows disregarded by very near all and lost. 10. Co-founder of a nameless band in Austin, with an LP worth of material, some recorded, disregarded by very near all and lost. 11. Co-founder of the band The Fishes, an epic, fairly polished LP of material, performed and semi-recorded, disregarded by very near all and lost. 1 show disregarded by very near all and lost. 12. Co-founder of the band The Questions, later called 7 Mile Snake to my dismay, with an LP of material and a demo CD, disregarded by very near all and lost. 13. Solo project Perfect Broken Tones, with an EP of electronic music with vocals, disregarded by very near all and lost, except for 2 songs which are online. 14. Founder of the band Nevermind What It Is, in Port St. Lucie, with an EP of material performed and not recorded and disregarded by very near all and lost and lamented by myself. 15. Interspersed performances and jam sessions with innumerable musicians in innumerable towns, perceived temporally by a very few and disregarded by very near all, and subsequentially lost. 16. Bullshit live band karaoke in multiple cities, disregarded by very near all. Not that it should have been all that regarded in the first fucking place, and completely lost. 17. The very beginning of a band co-founded by myself. The other founder has not been found. Yet. And I doubt ever will. 18. Some karaoke nonsense in Vietnam. Heart Ocean. Trailer. Heart Ocean shall be after a music project currently underway. albeit at its pre-embryonic stages, has completed its first little tour. Heart Ocean. Is a book that is not a book. Lee. 3/17/17. 12:10 and 49 seconds a.m.